Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Inner Golden Hour podcast with me, your host, Kusum. And for the first time ever, I am doing my solo episode on video. And to crank things up a little, I figured I might as well wear this pirate costume. What do you all think? Just goofing around. Let's go ahead and stop this madness. Or, oh, you know what? Maybe just maybe I should use these lines instead. It's the holiday season after all. Okay, what do you all think? I'm just going to leave it up there for a little bit. Let me know what you all think. And if you are listening to this episode, as always, on audio, you might want to check this one out on video as well, because this is going to be a super special episode where I'm going to be making an absolute total fool out of myself because I don't know what the heck I'm doing as I'm recording this video podcast episode. Because, see, I didn't even have my mic in front of me. So, expect a lot of goofy, bloopery stuff besides all of the tangents that we are going to go on today on this episode because the episode just calls for it. And not to forget that this episode is one where I am sharing, diving into the deeper secrets, not necessarily secrets, deeper stuff about some of the things that have transpired over the last 3 years that I have never gotten to share. So let's dive right in and see where this episode is going to take us, as well as see how long it really is going to take to get this episode right. Okay? Are you tracking with me? Because people likely perhaps cut out all of this from their episode, but I'm gonna leave it right there because why the heck not? This is real life, and I am not perfect, and this is the first time I'm doing, despite being see there you go, despite doing videos for my Instagram for the longest time right now. I still get in front of the camera and freeze. I still have brain freeze, not knowing what I want to say next, despite being a yappity yapper or yakety yacker. I don't know. See, there you go. See, there you go. So that's how this episode is going to be. So we are going to roll with that. And I will try not to get myself distracted by looking at my own expressions because we all know my true self is the most dramatic self. Ask my hubby and my kids. They'll vouch for it. And see, my hubby has also gotten me this because he knows the true me. I'll get over it. I just need to be dramatic first. Okay. So, with that, let's jump right in. This time for absolute real. Okay? Okay. We got this. You're doing this. We're doing this. We got this. We got this. We're doing this. We're doing this. We got this. We got this. I ain't got it, by the way. Anyway. All right. So, on a more serious note, welcome back, everyone. And if you are new here, because perhaps you are watching this for the first time on YouTube, because that's where I'm going to post this podcast episode, we are 71 episodes deep. So far, all of my episodes have been up on my iTunes as well as on my Spotify and wherever else you get your podcast episodes. But for the first time, I am recording a video podcast episode. So if you're new here, I am Kusum. I'm a life and leadership coach for ambitious working moms. And my sole purpose, goal, mission, vision in life is to make sure that moms can be as ambitious as they want and as successful as they want without the overwhelm, the guilt, the hustle, the sacrifice, and the whole 9 yards that comes with you becoming a mom while also being an ambitious one at that. Okay, so that's my little bloopery intro. But right now, let's get into the episode that I really want to walk you all through. This week, we just celebrated 11/11 and the significance of that number. as you all know, if you're like me, if you follow the spiritual significance, it's like a whole new portal. But for us in our family, there's way more significance to that number than it just being 1111. 3 years ago, on November 11th, we moved into this home, this very home. So, November 11th marked an anniversary that, truly speaking, frankly speaking, still blows my freaking mind even after 3 years. Because 3 years ago, when we moved into this home, which we named Sahasrara, named after the seventh chakra, the thousand petaled crown. This home is a symbol of divine timing, of expansion, and of that deep, 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 deep trust. And nothing about how we got here to this home was linear, planned, or even logical. It was quite simply batshit crazy. And I'm not exaggerating one bit because when we decided to move from Washington State to California, we did it against every single rational piece of advice. In fact, my husband thought that I was completely out of my freaking mind to even suggest this because why would we take that leap? And how did we even pull this most illogical move of our lives with a 5 year old and a 10-month-old baby, and me still physically and emotionally healing from one of the most traumatic birth experiences? And it's still going through postpartum. But when we made this decision, our little girl was still about 3 or 4 months old. So, yeah, no wonder my husband thought that I was completely out of mind, right? So, there was a lot of uncertainty. And to be honest, it wasn't supposed to happen. This move was not supposed to happen, not then and not like that at all. Exactly why I say that I've never really shared the full, messy, divine story until now. So here we go. Welcome to the Inner Golden Hour podcast, where dreams take flight, mind, body, and soul get a serious holistic upgrade, and personal evolution transforms into a shared spiritual adventure. Consider this your dedicated sanctuary for exploration, self discovery, unfiltered truths, diverse perspectives, and some much needed heart to heart real talk. Hi, I'm your host Kusum. I'm a mindset and manifestation life and business coach. Think of me as that best friend you never knew you needed. The one unafraid to call out your BS, deliver a dose of tough love, and hit you with some truth bombs. This podcast is more than just a series of episodes. It's a transformative experience guiding you to dig into your truths, ditch those old beliefs, and fully embrace the real authentic you. It's an invitation to align your mind, body, heart, and soul, to dream big, to explore what truly lights you up, and to manifest a reality that surpasses your wildest imagination. Envision this space as the magical golden hour when everything radiates with a breathtaking glow, revealing the depths of your inner world. Now, come along and immerse yourself in a perpetual flow of inspiration, insights, and massive transformation across all areas of your life. Let's explore the extraordinary, one enlightening episode at a time. So, first, let me actually take you back a year, even before the year that we actually moved. Back in 2021, I had floated this idea of moving from Washington to California. And then I let that thought go because I said this to my hubby and our daughter, who was still inside my belly at that time. And I said, if it's meant to happen, if you're meant to move this year, then it's you guys' responsibility. That is my husband and our daughter, who is still in my belly, because I truly believe that our kids decide where, when, and how they want to be born. So, as is evident, our daughter was hell bent on this dramatic birth, or should I rather say traumatic birth, that was meant to happen in Washington and not in California. So, yeah, we did move in 2021. And if you're wondering what this traumatic birth was all about, again, another story that I haven't gotten into the details of anywhere on social media or anywhere else. So maybe perhaps I am going to get into the details of that someday, one day on this podcast because it is going to require a full blown podcast episode. So that's what's coming. And did I mention before I got started with this episode that this episode is going to go on several different tangents, just like life, because everything is interrelated. Much like in life, everything is interrelated and as a result, interconnected. So that's exactly what's going to happen with this episode as well, because different pieces come together to play a role in this divine orchestra that the universe put together. So, if I didn't already give you that fair warning, that's what you can expect from this episode. And now, as I also share that I first floated this idea back in 2021, I'm also reminded that back when we were moving across the country almost 10 years ago, or rather more than 10 years ago, back in 2015, hubby and I did have the option of choosing to move to California instead of Washington State. But we chose not to. Well, for the reasons I am not going to divulge in this episode. Maybe some other time, some other episode. So, Washington State became our home for the next 7 years. So, we moved to California, we moved from East Coast, New York, New Jersey, to Washington State back in 2015. And we moved from Washington State to California State in 2022. So we spent 7 years in Washington. So, yes, 7 years later in 2022, out of nowhere, that nudge came back stronger than ever. I was still in the trenches of new motherhood, yet something inside in me knew that it was time. Even though we had a newborn baby, even though my husband thought that I was absolutely nuts, I, as always, chose to trust my gut. And the moment we leaned in, of course, my hubby had to get on board. And he usually does because he knows, even though as crazy as my intuition might sound, it is always right. So we both leaned in on my intuitive gut. And once we did so, everything started to open up. Because one thing about me is that I follow my intuition when it speaks to me, even when it makes absolutely no sense, like zero sense. So, when I tell you that everything aligned when we made the decision, I mean, every single detail, we didn't have to force a single thing. It all flowed simply because I leaned into my intuition of saying yes to this nudge despite all the odds. So that year, we basically lived in suitcases in the year 2022. We were, as soon as we decided that we were going to move, we started renovating our home in Washington. And then we were going through that phase of staging the home and putting it up on the market and packing and bouncing from one Airbnb to another and squeezing in long weekend getaways and trying to make it feel as normal as possible while everything around was transitional. Not to forget, I was still healing physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, like you name it. And I was still going through the healing process. And we had a 4 month old at home at that time. So a lot of things had to fall into place for all of this to come together. And it still amazes me to this day how hubby and I single handedly pulled it all off because even as we were renovating the house, we had to take care of so many things. We literally had to empty out the entire kitchen. Like you're living in the house, there's dinner happening. If anybody has gone through a full blown renovation, you will know what that feels like. So we were packing things up, moving that from one room to another to the garage, and we had to make space in the garage, which was already overflowing, which I will get into just a little bit why that was the case. So, yes, it still amazes me how hubby and I single handedly pulled it all off without any other help. My parents were there with us, up until our daughter was about 4-ish months, I think, or 5 months maybe. And then they were heading back. But the reason they had come was to help us with the baby, not necessarily with renovating the home or anything. But even when they came, we didn't think that we were moving anytime soon. And all of those decisions were being made on the fly. So I still remember to this day very vividly hubby and I fitting cabinet handles in the kitchen at 1 a.m. in the morning in between one of our daughter's nighttime feeds. And we would just sit there patiently, just doing one thing after another, finishing one thing after another, so we could put up this home on the market. And eventually, what did end up happening is we did list the home on the market, and every time there was a showing, we would pack everything up. And the worst thing is, like, if you've ever been through staging a home, if you've ever listed your home on the market and if you're still living there, you have to make sure the home looks like nobody lives there. The homes, the staged homes, are not the homes that people actually live in. It's crazy. It's insane. So I would literally have to pack up all of the things, make it look like nobody was living in the house, even though we were living there with the baby. And all the things that comes as a baggage when you are living with a baby in a home. So we would pack everything up and move into the Airbnb and shuttle between the two. Oh my God, that was the whole hassle in and of itself. Anyway, so we did eventually decide to pull off the listing off of the market. And we decided that, you know what? We're not going to sell this Washington home, but we are still going to just go ahead and move to California and figure it all out later. So now that decision in and of itself was a battle because we went through so much. We did so much just so we could make sure that we sold our home and then moved. And we had spent so much time, week after week after week, month after month after month, making sure. In total, I think from the moment we decided that we were going to put the house on the market until we actually put the house on the market, I think it was about 2 to 3 months. So every single day, we were doing stuff related to the house while still actually living a life, right? So now this decision of pulling that listing off of the market in and of itself was a battle, a complete rejection of logic. Like, why would you spend so much time, effort, energy, money to go through all of the hassle and now say that, you know what? We are just going to rent out this home and then move. It's like, yeah, but that's what we are feeling caught in the moment, and we are just going to go ahead and do just that. And there were some other reasons because of which we did pull the listing off the market. But yet again, it's like, what did we spend the last 2 to 3 months putting ourselves through this rigmarole, right? So that was literally the question we were asking. Anyhow, so we decided that we were still going to go ahead with the move despite what we chose to do with our Washington home. Again, did I mention that my husband thought that I was absolutely out of my mind to even suggest that we move that year, given the season of life we were in? Because we were going through a whole lot as a family. And for my husband, the most important thing was that I get better soon and not put more stuff on my plate that actually does the opposite. So he was coming from that place, and me, on the other hand, knowing myself all too well. Anyhow, but also I had the support of my intuition. So who's to say that this was not the season of life where we were going to up and move our entire family? So that is the story. That is all how it began. And I have to say, before I get into the details, despite how everything looked, it was the easiest and the easiest move that could have ever happened. And let me tell you, it was so easy. Well, of course, did we do a lot of the things that we had to do, but it was not as crazy as I had imagined, because literally from the moment we decided that we were going to move to actually moving, I think it was about 3 months in total that it took. And I couldn't have planned it myself if I had 3 years. And that is why this home that we are at right now, the smaller, cozier space, was the exact lesson the universe needed to teach us. Now, you might be thinking, okay, so this story, this episode is all about just a house. Before you make that big mistake, I'm here to tell you that this story is not just about a house, it's about what actually ends up happening when you follow the divine nudges in life, when you let go of what you thought you needed, and when you actually surrender to how life is unfolding for you, you will get to not just witness, but also experience what life has in store for you instead. And this is exactly why I keep telling people to let go of the need to control every day single detail, because I have been there myself. I know how life transpires when you are the control freak versus when you let the universe control all of the details instead of you being that maniac who wants to control everything. Yeah, I am talking about myself. So, getting back to the topic at hand, in order for you to understand the significance of this home, Sahasrara, this small, cozy space, you have to understand the sheer scale of where we actually came from. Now, our Washington home was almost twice the size of where we live right now. It was significantly big, this two-story home. And when we left, it was mostly just the three of us who had lived in that home for the most part, right? Because it was my hubby, our son, and myself. And now it was also our baby girl, but she didn't necessarily live in that home. Like, baby takes very little space. So back then, you could say that in that big two-story home, it was just the three of us who actually lived. So you could say that in Washington, we had it all: a big, beautiful home, more space than we needed, closets that were overflowing, and a garage we couldn't walk through. But you know what I didn't realize for a long, long time? I didn't realize that all that space and all that luxury had actually fueled a hidden pattern in me, a pattern that I hadn't been willing to look at until then. So before I knew it, that home had fueled a giant problem in me, my massive shopping addiction. Like, what? So let me take you back to when we actually first moved into our Washington home. Back then, I can honestly say that something took over me. And I was on this perpetual buying spree, this perpetual shopping spree. I was buying seasonal items every damn season, whether it was new decor, new clothes, new this, new that, new everything. So it was stuff, stuff, and more stuff. And now that I look back, or rather, when I started to look back, I realized that I was trying to fill a hole, a gap from not being able to shop that way when I was little. Now, I'm not complaining about that, but I just realized that that is where this addiction had come from, because growing up, we only ever shopped once or twice a year. And even when we did shop once or twice a year, it was just for one single outfit at a time and not for a dozen different outfits every single outing. Because sometimes this has happened, very much happened. And I'm sure this happens to a lot of you too. You go to Target for one thing and you come back home with 20 different outfits and you try them on. And out of the 20, you like 10 and you want to go return the other 10. And instead of just simply returning the other 10, you come back home with 20 more, right? And that's a cycle. That's a vicious cycle. And that happened. So, unlike back home when we were growing up, when we used to only shop for that single outfit at any given time, now my shopping habits were shopping for dozens of outfits any single outing. And when I was growing up, I only owned one pair of shoes at any given time. But now I would bring back at least half a dozen shoes every time I went shopping. So looking back, that's what I realized. I was trying to fill that gap that growing up, we didn't have a lot of money and shopping truly was a luxury back then. But here, at this point in time, I had the space, the luxury, and the money. So I ended up shopping like crazy, and our garage was always overflowing, let alone our home. It was not just stuff in my closets, in my big, giant as master bedroom or my master closet, but even our garage was overflowing with stuff because I would want to switch out my decor every other season or every season rather. Now, I am not proud of any of this, but I'm also not ashamed to say this either because as I share this, the reason I'm sharing it is because I know I am not the only one who has tried to fill a void with retail therapy. And to this day, that is exactly what many, 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 many women in the world across the globe are doing. They are trying to fill a void with retail therapy, going on these shopping sprees, right? So if that's you, here's my invitation to start looking at your own patterns, start digging deeper. Maybe you're not as crazy as I used to be when it comes to shopping, but are you still using, in whatever shape, size, or form, using retail therapy as a form of therapy? And as I say that word, even, I'm like, oh my gosh, we are talking about shopping being equal to therapy. And how sad and unfortunate is that? I didn't even realize that up until I started talking about that right now. So ask yourself, dig deeper into your own patterns and see, do you see that pattern in you? Even if it is in small ways. So perhaps it's time for you to interrupt that pattern and perhaps see what void it is that you are trying to fill. Anyway, coming back to the topic at hand. So, as I realized all of this back in 2019, I had this awakening, which is when I really started digging deeper, asking myself, like, why am I filling my house with so much materialistic stuff? The heck is going on? And I genuinely started to feel sick over how much stuff we had. I literally started to hate myself or hate this about myself that I was shopping like crazy and that I had stuff everywhere. And every time I had to make a decision of cleaning out that clutter or taking stuff and putting it away, I would hate myself as to why am I doing this to myself? Because I am the sole reason for this pain that I'm putting myself through, right? And it's not even just that, it's the fact that this shopping and this hoarding addiction isn't just personal either. It is also fueled by this culture that we live in, this culture of consumerism that has taken over our generation. Unfortunately, this mentality that you need to have more stuff, that you need to buy more stuff, that you need to accumulate, hoard, shop new, and social media has certainly made this addiction a million times worse. Also, the brands, we are coming out with stuff every new season, every other week, and influencers on social media are trying to sell this to you, even while putting out a full disclaimer when they tell you only buy the things that you truly need. But what do you think is actually happening? How many of you are actually conscious consumers who are making the decision based out of need, necessity versus shopping because your favorite influencer posted it or you saw that in your friend's home? You don't really need it, right? So, again, go back to digging deeper on your own patterns. And that is exactly why, that mindset was precisely why I stopped blogging and promoting brands because I no longer wanted to be part of the problem. This was all a result of the awakening that I had back in 2019. So I began to walk away from tens of thousands of dollars in brand collaborations. And I finally, once and for all, bid goodbye to that chapter of my life as a content creator and global brand ambassador, or maybe not necessarily content creator because I still create content, but as an influencer who was collaborating with global brands. So I bid goodbye to that chapter of my life back then. And if you have been an OG follower on any of my platforms, and if you've been wondering why you haven't seen me share any product recommendations on my socials for the last 4+ years, this is exactly why. Because I no longer wanted to be a part of the problem. I no longer wanted to make money by telling more people to continue with this sad, sad addiction that they have with shopping. Now, you've also heard me time and time again talk about this concept of walking away from things that are still amazing. And this is one of those biggest walk away moments for me, like walking away while the money was good, while the fame was good, while the followers were good. I chose to walk away because this was no longer in alignment with who I was evolving as a person, who I was becoming, and my values. They no longer match that. And I said, okay, it's time for me to walk away. So that was one of the many reasons that I walked away from that chapter of my life, bidding goodbye. And now that awakening actually started a 3-year process of cutting down stuff. So we began purging bit by bit. And here's where I need to be more specific because the numbers are shocking. Between 2019 and the time we actually moved in 2022, during those 3 years, I think we donated a total of about $30,000 worth of stuff. And if we were to really look back between 2019 and now 2025, in total, we have donated over $40,000 worth of stuff, not metaphorically, literally. Absolutely, literally. Now, I wish I was exaggerating, but I am not. We literally gave away enough stuff from our kitchen that could stock about 2 to 3 other whole kitchens. That's just to give you context. Like, for example, I had this obsession of buying coffee mugs, even though I'm not a coffee drinker. Coffee mugs, seasonal coffee mugs. So we might have donated over 30 coffee mugs, and we still might have another 30 more at our home right now. It's a work in progress, you guys. I'm a work in progress, like I say. Right. And these coffee mugs are not from any set or anything. These are individual coffee mugs that I have bought during many, many, many shopping sprees. And at the same time, we started giving away all kinds of decor. Everything went. And again, for context, we donated more than 40 giant seasonal scented candles. No kidding, because there was a point where I was obsessed with these seasonal scented candles because I am a sucker of good smells, but not all of those candles were utilized. And then I realized these candles were not good for us as well, so donated them along with other furniture, big and small, clothes that we donated, like bags and bags of clothes, kids' stuff, skincare products, because I also decided back then. Like so many things, so many different kinds of awakening happened inside of me back in 2019 and 2020, along with the world also being upside down thanks to COVID back then, or maybe no thanks to COVID, pun intended. So I decided that I didn't need to keep putting more chemicals on my skin. So I stopped using a majority of the skincare products because I truly started to believe that my body should be able to do its thing as long as they take care of it from the inside out. So why the heck would I listen to all of these brands who are just trying to push skincare products on you so they can get your money? I said, no, I'm not going to be again part of that equation. So I started saying no to skincare products in my home. Same with cosmetics. Now, I love putting on makeup, but my makeup now involves at most about 5 to 6 products, and that's about it, versus the 50 to 60 products that you will see in any fashion influencers cabinets, which to me is truly mind boggling. Like, what the fuck is happening with the world that we are living in right now? And this is what we are teaching people, what we want people to be inspired by. No, thank you. And yes, I also donated a lot of my designer perfumes. Like I said, I've always been a sucker for good scents and fragrances. But then I decided even these are toxic chemicals. So I gave away all of those too. Now, I still might wear perfume, but once or twice a year, if that. Earlier, it used to be every single day. So those were donated as well, along with plenty, dozens and dozens of handbags and shoes too. At least 80 to 100 pairs of shoes were given away. I wish I was kidding, but I am not. So, you name it, whether it was kitchenware or electronics or gadgets or anything, you name it, we gave it away without thinking twice. And I really have to say that this cleansing wasn't just about physical stuff, but it was a spiritual and emotional decluttering that I was going through. And the sad part is that even as the movers loaded the truck for California, and I can still remember that scene so vividly, even to this day. Our son had just come back from his preschool. The movers were loading the truck, and I had just put my baby down to nap. And I was standing outside by the door at the edge of the step, thinking to myself, why the heck did I ever have to buy so much stuff? We could have donated that and that and that. Because as I saw the movers load the truck, I saw so much more stuff that was just loaded onto the truck because that very next day we were flying out and I didn't have any more opportunity to put the stuff back in the garage and say that, you know what, we're going to run do another donation. Because that day, by the time the movers loaded the truck and left, it was pretty late in the evening, I think about 6 or 7 p.m. And right after that, my plan was actually to be cleaning the house as the movers were loading the truck. But that didn't happen because of how they do stuff, which I get. So hubby and kids and I, we were all supposed to go stay at a hotel for a few nights before we actually moved. And I decided that I didn't want to get cleaners because one thing that I noticed with the cleaners right before we staged our home to put it up on the market was the cleaners came, they spent about 8 hours deep cleaning our home. And guess what happened the following weekend? That weekend. So I think they came on Friday. On Saturday and Sunday, no joke, you guys, no joke. I spent the entire weekend cleaning up things after the cleaners had spent 8 hours because that is how finicky I am, or detail oriented rather. I am. I went around looking every nook and corner and cleaning up every dark corner. I spent the entire weekend doing that. So I was like, we don't have the luxury of time because after the movers leave, the cleaners are going to be here. And if they don't do a good job, then I will be spending time cleaning the house. I'd rather just do that myself. And I know this will sound absolutely absurd and bizarre, but that's me in case you didn't know. So I sent hubby and the kids to the hotel room, and this home right now is empty except for all of the trash, except for one vacuum cleaner and myself. And I spent the entire night, again, I kid you not, the entire night cleaning the entire two-story home, huge ass home, all by myself, without complaining to myself once or without telling myself why the heck was I doing this to myself, because that is how committed I am in life to anything that I commit myself to. So the fact that, oops, I didn't realize that I was doing videos. See, this is how I record my audio podcast where I'm literally transporting myself to that scene as I close my eyes and record my audio podcast. I, for a second, forgot that I was recording a video podcast. Anyway, I will continue to do my thing and not be distracted by the fact that this is video versus audio. So I still remember after cleaning up the entire home, I slept on the carpet without a pillow, without a blanket, no nothing. This was in August because that's when we moved from Washington State to California. I slept on the floor for a good 3 hours before the kids and hubby would come home and we would leave. And I just remember a detail that, oh my God, hilarious detail that I can never forget. So, as I cleaned and cleaned and cleaned the entire home, yes, scrubbing down the toilets, vacuuming the floors, mopping the floors, and whatnot, you name it, I did it. And as I was on my last round of making sure everything was done, I was in the garage. Hubby and kids had not made their way home yet. I think they were stopping by a Starbucks to pick up some breakfast or something. And I was in the garage, and our home self locks itself, our home in Washington. And my phone was inside. I was in the garage taking out some trash and dumping it in our bin. And I didn't realize that I left my phone inside the house. And my door has locked me out of the house. I don't have my phone. I don't have keys to get inside the house. There is no automatic unlocking system. And this was 7 a.m. in the morning. I have no way to reach my husband. And we have to leave to the airport in about 2 or so hours, I think. And we have tons of suitcases still to take with us. And I still had a few more things to wrap up before I was going to be fully done. And I still needed to take a shower as well. Yeah, so I had held on to stuff that I could literally just dump as we leave. And there I was locked out of the house. Hilarious. And I cannot still forget because in all of the years that we lived in that home, 5+ years, not once had I locked myself out of the house. And it happens on the day that we are supposed to say goodbye to the house. What message was the universe sending me? Anyway, that early in the morning, I went over to my neighbor's place, knocked on their door. I'm like, hey, this is what happened. Can I borrow your phone to call my husband? And oh my God, it was so hilarious. Anyway, I called my hubby and he's like, it's going to be another half an hour before I get there. So I am pacing up and down my garage as I was taking care of more stuff there. As I am on one side cursing myself, why would I do this to myself? And what was I thinking or not thinking, rather? On the other hand, laughing at the hilariousness of the situation. Anyway, so that's what happened on the day of our move. I can never forget. So, yeah, in a couple of hours, the guy who was supposed to take us to the airport, which was a huge mini bus, so to speak, came and we loaded up our, I think, 8 suitcases. I don't know. I will have to look for all of those photos. Yeah, this is what I'm planning to do. I'm gonna take all of those photos from 3 years ago, random photos that we've taken, and I am going to publish them on maybe Substack or maybe on my Instagram or a little bit here, a little bit there. I don't know. I haven't decided, but you will get a full peek into everything. Oh, you're going to get a full picture into everything that went down 3 years ago. The hilariousness of it all. So that's what I'll do. Yeah, this episode, oh my God, it's bringing me so much joy to record. Anyway, now that you have all had a good laugh at my expense, let's get back to the topic at hand. And listen to this for proof of how deep this shopping addiction, this habit runs. Because even after all that donation, and even after moving here and continuing to purge every single quarter, and sometimes every other month, if not more frequently, I still have over 70 pairs of shoes in my garage right now. Again, like I said, I have continued to donate, and I have donated at least 40 pairs of shoes since moving here. And even now, we still have at least 10 giant boxes of just my clothing that I haven't worn in 3 years. And I keep thinking to myself, like, if I really took on this challenge of just wearing an outfit once and not repeat it again, I will likely be able to wear a new outfit every single day for the rest of the year. And again, I am not proud of any of this. The reason I am saying this is since that awakening back in 2019, I have tried to be a conscious consumer. Now, the ideal would have been to be a minimalist in its truest terms, but I am far from being a minimalist. I know that. Maybe one day, someday, I don't know, maybe I'll get there, but I'm not there yet. But since then, I have become a conscious consumer. Now, I still love to dress up. I'm not going to take that away from me, or not going to not wear cute, nice clothes and not shop for them. But at the same time, I have become more and more conscious. And we are still continuing to donate stuff now. I ask myself at least a few dozen times before I place an order for an item. And that shift started before we moved, right? But this move has truly forced the transformation into a whole new necessary layer for me. Now, as I even record this episode, I realized the obsession with accumulation was the old me. But this new me knew even before I knew, this new me intuitively knew that we had to physically downsize to truly internalize this lesson that came to me back in 2019. And how freaking wild and crazy is that in how the universe literally brings you your lessons so you can truly internalize, embody, and integrate these lessons into your life. Now, I didn't mean to get sidetracked by all of that, but like I told you, I am keeping up with my promise that this episode is going to go in various different tangents because they are all interrelated. So, coming back to the move itself was, again, even more amazing. We landed in California in August of 2022, and we lived in a temporary accommodation for 2 amazing months with absolutely minimal stuff. I had carefully chosen a few stuff from our home before the movers packed it off, saying that, okay, what are some of the things that we are going to need for 2 months to live in a temp accommodation when we don't have access to all of our stuff? So I had carefully packed what we needed. And not just that, I'd also carefully packed what we needed for our upcoming trip to India. So that's a whole other thing. And this is why I was saying, like, my entire 2022 revolved around being strategic and being this amazing planner who was strategizing and then packing and then doing all of the things around what needs to be brought where and what can still stay in the boxes. So our plan when we moved here to California was to rent a home after our temp accommodation time was up and settle down into a new neighborhood so we can get a feel for what it is like to live in California. What does this life feel like, look like? And check out various different neighborhoods and then maybe think about buying a home a year or two later. And that was the logical human timeline that we had thought of. But lo and behold, right after about a month of us moving to California, my amazing intuition kicked in again, randomly, out of the blue, one day. I mean, if you are somebody who listens to your intuition, you know that's exactly how it comes to life. One random day, completely out of the blue, it will knock on your head and say that, hey, guess what? This is what we're doing next. So, exactly like that, one day, completely out of the blue, my intuition kicked in again and said, let's just go see a few houses. And then I told my hubby the same exact thing. And my hubby, yet again, looked at me like I was crazy because at this point, let me tell you, interest rates were climbing up like crazy. And first of all, buying a home was not even on the radar for us. And we said we were not going to buy a home when we moved to California. So that is where we were as far as reality was concerned in human terms. But something in me said, just do it. I know it sounds absolutely crazy when you listen to it from a human perspective. But when you start to trust the divine and the divine perspective, you'll be like, it might sound crazy, but we are going to jump in and just do it. And again, like I said, this was exactly when the interest rates were shooting up and up and up, and every logical person was actually pulling back. But we continued to follow the nudge. And before we knew it, this entire process, from the moment we decided we were going to buy a home in a brand new city, brand new state that we have just arrived at, to actually owning a home happened in a span of less than 3 weeks. Not 3 months, but 3 weeks. And all our friends who were here were absolutely astonished because when we moved here, we kept telling them that, hey, we're going to start looking for a place to rent and that, this, the other. And the next time we met them, we are like, hey, we have some news for you. We just bought a home. And that's the crazy, beautiful thing about life that I've always witnessed for myself over and over again, that when you follow your intuition, the divine will rearrange things for you as long as you're willing to trust that nudge and follow through on it, because the divine does not follow human logic. It doesn't follow your and my timelines. It has a timeline of its own. Sometimes it is super slow and you're like, what the fuck is even happening? But many times it fast tracks everything, much like what happened to us. So even the day we came to sign the contract, hubby still jokes that he didn't think we were going to buy a home that day, because I still remember sitting at the person's office, whoever was selling us the home. He was like looking at me like, are we doing this today? Like right now, we are going to. So everything happened in kind of a reverse way for us. Like we literally got everything done that very minute we needed to get things done. And that is how unprepared we were, because we were not planning to buy a home anytime soon. Again, like I said, that is the thing about divine timing. It doesn't wait for your spreadsheets, your logic, your friends, their reality, but your divine timing opens doors for you and only you. And then only you get to decide either you are going to walk through it or you don't. If you choose to walk through it, despite all of the things that are seemingly looking like red flags, but you know it's a green flag, then you will experience incredible, tremendous amounts of success, holistic success. And when you don't follow through, the universe is going to keep sending you incredible amounts of lessons until you start to trust yourself and your intuition and start taking action based off of that. Now, going back to the story of this home, the very same time, we also looked at a few more homes that were bigger than the one that we are at right now. And we really actually liked these homes, but these homes are facing a main highway street. And we didn't want that for several reasons, including the noise. And then we saw this home. And the moment I saw the number of this house, I didn't even have to walk inside the house. I just had to see the number of this house. And immediately I knew that this was the home we were meant to live in. And regardless of me not wanting a condo home and regardless of what I thought we wanted, which was truly a 3 to 4 story home, yep, beat that, right? And regardless of how much smaller this home felt in comparison to all the other homes that we had seen and liked, I knew that this was a home that we were meant to live in because I also know that the energy of the home that you are meant to live in is the only place that you can ever live at. There's no other way about it. Now, when I say this is a smaller home, I also have to preface that with small is always relative, right? It's always in comparison to something else. Because I grew up in a 1 bedroom home that our family of four shared. And we didn't have any walk-in closets or we didn't have any garages or none of that. It was just a small living room, a kitchen, a bathroom, and a standard puja room. And we lived a happy, amazing life in that 1 bedroom home, which was much, much, much smaller than the home that we live in right now. And this home, by those standards, is a huge luxury. And if we didn't really live in a much bigger home in Washington back then, we didn't even have anything to compare this home against, right? But going from a massive Washington home to this, that was a physical, immediate downsizing for my husband and I, especially because our son, he's still little, so he doesn't really understand as much. And for our daughter, this literally is the home that she is growing up in, and she doesn't have any other reference points, right? Which is exactly why I truly believe that the universe chose this home for us for two major reasons. And this is truly what the why, because I look for the why in everything, the why of this move. So, the number one reason is to ground me. And maybe you don't realize how important that really is to actually be living in a space of feeling grounded. And for me, I think beyond just feeling grounded, there were all of these other things also at play, right? The universe needed me to move away from my ridiculous shopping habits. So, what happens when you're living in a smaller place? It gave me the opportunity to truly implement the minimalist habits that I had been trying to start since 2019. Now, it actually forced the issue because when you have a bigger home, you tend to have more stuff. And for the four of us, really, how much stuff do we need? And I'm also a person who can't stand clutter. And said I can't see too much stuff if they're not in their place, if they're just lying around everywhere. I cannot stand that. It literally bugs the heck out of me. And when I see people who have overflowing amounts of stuff in a smaller space, it really does something to my body because I'm like, okay, this doesn't feel like safe. Exactly. This doesn't feel safe because it, I think for me, brings about the fact that this is a space that is also trying to fill a void in a way that it doesn't necessarily understand. Going back to what I was sharing with you all earlier. Anyway, so this house in that way has been the ultimate accountability partner for me. And I have been very mindful, even with like buying stuff for the house. We've only bought about three big pieces of furniture in 3 years. And to a certain extent, I even stopped myself from fully decorating this place because I have, even when we moved into this home, I've always held this feeling that this is a pit stop only. And I don't know when we are moving next. Maybe from this state, maybe from this home. In any case, I'm open to whatever the universe has in store. And also, not to forget, back in 2024, last year, I took a vow to only buy the absolute essentials and not shop for anything else last year. So I shopped for myself. In total, I only bought three outfits for myself. That was around my birthday. I know three is excessive. You only need one birthday outfit, but I did buy three outfits for myself during my birthday and a pair of shoes. Yes, whew, I know I have 70 pairs of shoes in the garage, but I still bought myself a pair of shoes. And then I bought three pajama sets. And that was all the shopping that I did for myself back in 2024. And in 2025, I still wanted to continue with the same, buy only that you need. But by the time summer came around this time, I felt like I needed to shift some energy. And one of the fastest ways to do so is through clothes. So I have allowed it, but very mindfully. So when I say that this home holds me to my highest intention, you guys, I'm not kidding because the universe literally made sure that that was the case for me. Now, I'm not going to lie, our closet, not as huge as the one that we had in Washington. We still have a walk in closet here. I feel like this, I feel like it is overflowing with stuff. We do have a lot of stuff. And I do want to give away more stuff in terms of like my clothes and whatnot. But one thing about that is I have not necessarily changed in terms of the clothes that fit me. I still have clothes from 13 years ago that fit me just fine and that are in great condition. And I'm like, I still like it. If I didn't really like it, I would have donated it. But I fit into it perfectly and I like it and I want to wear it. So that is one of the reasons I still have the clothes I still have. And even when it comes to shoes, I'm like, there's not many occasions. I perhaps wear the same one or two shoes over and over and over and over again, despite owning as many pairs of shoes that I own. But the thing is, like, when I'm traveling or when I'm going to other things, I want to wear that nice pair of shoes, whatever, right? So, again, like I said, it's a process. It's not like I can just go cold turkey on it. It is a process. And that process also keeps me grounded because then it's like you have to, every time you have to make a decision of like, do I keep this or do I donate this? Because sometimes I feel like, should I just rip the band aid off and just take all of the things that I have in the garage and just donate it without looking through it or without thinking much? But then again, at the same time, like, you know what? That's taking the easy way out. When you really have to sit with the discomfort of, bloody hell, woman, you actually went and spent time and money and energy and effort and bought these things. So you better sit with the discomfort of, should I keep this or should I give it away? Right? Because all of that is huge, huge, huge teaching moments. And it teaches me. And every single time there is a new piece of item, a new object that I see that doesn't have a space or place to keep at, it brings me right back to, okay, where do I still need to work through this? Because ultimately, if there is something that you don't have a space for in your home, that means either something else needs to go or this shouldn't have come home in the first place, right? So it will keep helping me go back to the same exact lesson so I can keep coming back to fully, completely decluttering all that I need to declutter. And it is a process, and I am willing to sit with that process. Okay, so moving on. Number two is a connection. And this is what I truly see as how this home is serving us in such a deep, 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 deep way that I could have never imagined. Because living in a smaller place brings you so much closer as a family. Because in our two-story Washington home, we had huge spaces, right? But so if you wanted to just each of you be in your own separate spaces and zones at different times and not even see each other for the rest of the day, you could do it. But here, we are four of us in a three-bedroom home, and I work from home. So one of the bedrooms is really my office space. And my husband works from home half the time, and the kids share a room. And we are constantly in each other's proximity doing everything in each other's face. Now, if you don't really experience this, you will never truly realize the value of it. And as much as it can get on your nerves at times, and trust me, it does, there is so much beauty to this way of living life because I am constantly in my kids' orbit and they are constantly in my orbit. And we all know they're only going to be this little for so long. And they are going to want their own space and time and privacy very soon. So I want to be a part of everything that's happening with them and to them as much as possible. And my daughter, literally, she has grown up in this home. She was only 11 months old when we moved in. And I'm so grateful that our kids are experiencing this level of connection. And I wouldn't have known the value of this unless we were actually living in a home exactly this size. Now, we can all imagine things, but it's one thing to imagine, and it's a whole other story to actually truly live it. And not to forget, during summer, we also had my parents live with us here in this home. So there was a whole other level of connection that we all got to experience, which wouldn't have been possible if we lived anywhere else. And this actually leads me to my ultimate realization, the what of it all, the what this move has actually given us. And this realization has only come upon me very recently. Only a few months ago is when I actually truly realized that if we had not downsized and if we had gone for a bigger home with higher mortgage payments, one of the incredible things which leads up to our future vision for myself, my hubby, and our family that we got around to implement this year would perhaps not have happened this soon. So, this home actually opened up a huge space for us. It gave us room to make a huge, like a major, major, major life changing decision that's going to shape how our future is going to be, the future that we've been envisioning together for a bit now. And if not for this home, we wouldn't have had that liberty and that freedom to put that into motion as quickly as we have been able to put into motion, which happened literally this year. And listen, while I don't necessarily miss Washington itself, I do miss those trails, those stunning summer hikes where our thing we would be out and about every weekend with our toddler in tow because our son Arush has been hiking with us ever since he was in my belly. Every summer, that is the thing that we would do. Every weekend, we would be out on the trail. So that's definitely one of the things that I miss about Washington. And about our Washington home, I miss my home office. Dearly, dearly miss it because that space, first of all, was almost twice the size of this room, I think, this office space, or maybe one and a half times, I can't tell. But that space, more importantly, was holy ground for me because so many visions for me were born in that office space, and so many visions were birthed in that office space. And I can still feel the energy of all those mornings where I sat with myself doing the work that built everything, doing both the inner and the outer work. And not to forget the fireplace from our Washington home. I do miss that. The one I woke up one random day and decided that I was going to hand paint fireplace. And I also miss our dining room where we have gotten custom accent walls done. Oh, yes, last but not the least, the huge pantry that we have in our kitchen in our Washington home. That pantry was a whole personality. That was the first time that I ever experienced a huge, giant pantry, and so many memories that pantry holds for me. So, yes, those are some of the things that I do miss about Washington and our Washington home. Now, we may never move back into our Washington home, or that's what we think, that we are never going to move back, but you never say never. So, I don't know. But I know this for sure, that we still own that home for a reason, because I strongly believe that the energy of a place holds something for us. And I believe that certain homes aren't just structures, they are truly portals, and they hold different chapters for you in your life. And they also hold various versions of us, because so many different versions of me that are now propelling my future, we're all born there. And they also hold momentum that still works on our behalf, even when we are not physically there. And I truly believe that that home still holds a part of our story and a lot of the energy that we do need. I'm sure there's something from Washington, there's something from our home in Washington that we are still receiving, not physically, but energetically. And a part of that is going to continue to ripple into everything that we are now building. So that's exactly why I believe that we still own our home in Washington. Now, all that to say, the universe always lines things up for you. And sometimes the logical choices we reject are actually blessings, because we chose not to buy the bigger home on the main street for a logical reason. It was noise, highway proximity, but we didn't know the true reason until we looked back at the real freedom this relatively smaller home gave us. But then recently, I didn't even know that. So it goes to show that even when you can't see why the universe is having you do something, or why the universe is doing something for you, there are amazing things that are being lined up just for you, as long as you are willing to trust and believe that. And last but not the least, we can never forget that 11/11/2022, that date, we didn't honestly choose that date because things were literally happening as they had to. We couldn't have chosen a date exactly when we wanted to close the home, because there were other things at play. But I truly feel that that 11/11/2022, that portal was chosen for us by the universe, because I strongly believe in the power of that date, of that portal. And also, not to forget, the week leading up to 11/11 was also pure, unadulterated chaos. So, as I mentioned earlier, after we were done with the temp accommodation in California, we also went to India for a whole month before we moved into this hut. So, even though, listen to this is the most hilarious part. Even though we technically owned two homes at that point, we were effectively homeless because we had no fixed address. We didn't have an address. So, despite owning two homes, we were homeless. And get this, we were scheduled to land in San Francisco a week before we closed our home. And we were meant to stay at our friends over the weekend because we were not sure if there were going to be any flight delays. And that this, the other, traveling with kids, you always want to have space for things unexpected. and whatnot. So over the weekend, we were going to stay at our friends, and then we were going to move into an Airbnb for the rest of the week, and then move into this home. That was the plan. But one behold, before we could fly back to California, hubby and I fell sick. So when we landed, we decided, we told our friends we don't want to come. So at the airport, with the two little kids who have been traveling for the longest time, hubby and I are at the airport trying to manage the kids while also looking up hotels to book for the next few days for us before we actually could get into our Airbnb, because the Airbnb was not available until our actual dates that we'd booked. So on one side, it was hilarious. On the other side, it was insane because with two jet lagged kids, with two sick jet lagged adults, we were trying to manage a whole bunch of things at the airport. So we did spend a considerable amount of time at the airport before we could make our way into a hotel. And in this hotel room, which of course is obviously smaller for the four of you who are still recovering, who are jet lagged and whatnot. So I still remember we would be up at 2 a.m. playing Uno, the three of us, while our baby girl would stay away. But we are just so thankful for a roof over our heads that weekend. And I'll never, never, never forget that. That was one of the sweetest, most chaotic memories, because that room literally felt like a circus and a sanctuary for us for those 3 days. And later on, as we moved into the Airbnb, which was a huge relief, but also the chaos continued because I was still managing both the kids because hubby had to go back to work and kids didn't have school yet because we didn't have an address. So we couldn't put our son in school and we couldn't even think of anything for our daughter at that time. So yeah, our hubby was working. We were still trying to recover from all the sickness, coordinating a million things leading up to closing, coordinating with the bank, the lenders, and that is the other. It was crazy, crazy, crazy madness. And it was also, I think that weekend it was raining, or that week it was raining, it was chilly. I still remember hubby going to Panera to pick up some comfort food while I was also trying to cook a few meals for the rest of the week as I was digging through cardboard boxes of all the carefully packed groceries and spices we needed for that week. Because before leaving to India, again, yet again, like I said, my life revolved around strategizing and packing and unpacking what we needed. So I had carefully strategized and packed before we vacated our temp accommodation and took off to India. So yeah, digging through that cardboard box while my daughter was making a giant mess, digging through that box herself too. So I literally couldn't wait to move into this home, our home, Sahasrara, because oh my God, had that year been a heck of a lot of roller coaster ride from one thing to another to another to another. So finally, it was 11:11, and we got the keys to Sahasrara. And very soon, the movers dropped off all the boxes that were in storage for over 2 months the very same day. Well, actually, 3 months, right? We stayed at the temp accommodation for 2 months and we were away in India for a month. So, yeah, 3 months. Forgot, completely forgot. See? And I'm pretty sure I'm forgetting a lot of the other details or a lot of the other chaotic moments, madness that we put ourselves through during that year. But anyway, back to the point, the movers dropped off all of the boxes that were in storage for over 3 months the very same day after we did like a quick housewarming ceremony that morning. And immediately I went into a full on beast mode. And thankfully, by that time, I had recovered fully both from jet lag and sickness. I think when you have kids, you don't really have a choice because they get adjusted because they're not as jet lagged as you are, and you're the one who's going through that. But when you're a parent, you get back to reality real quick. So the other fact is also that I couldn't live having boxes around me anymore. I mean, I had done that for a majority of the year, like just boxes and packing and unpacking and all the whole nine yards. I went complete bonkers for the next 36 hours. I told my hubby, you deal with the kids, as in take care of the kids, order food, whatever you want to do. I can no longer function with these boxes around. So I might have at most slept for 3 to 4 hours in those 36 to 48 hours. And we had over 100 pieces of boxes that were in this home surrounding me. But in those 36 hours or max 48 hours, I unpacked almost everything and I had the entire house set up. And boy, oh boy, eating from your own plates and drinking from your own cups and sleeping in your own bed, OMG, is home. And by home, I truly mean heaven. So, yes, I set up the whole place in a day and a half. And then actually came the biggest pain, which I didn't realize. Even though we should have seen this coming, that we still couldn't fit half our stuff in this home. That is, even after donating over $30,000 worth of stuff up until that point between 2019 to 2022, now our garage was almost 90% full with stuff that we could no longer bring into this home because there simply wasn't enough space. And like I said, to this day, we are still continuing to donate more and more and more every quarter. Then why I hadn't given away even more stuff and why so much stuff is still in the garage is that we might move into a bigger place and we are going to need some of that stuff, maybe not all of the stuff. I don't know, right? So some of it is still in the garage, but we are still continuing to donate more and more stuff as frequently as possible. And in case you're wondering, what makes you donate over 40,000 worth of stuff in total without thinking much about it? It's truly this. I truly believe that whatever you give away without any kind of expectation whatsoever, it always comes back to you tenfold, if not more. And that's not the reason I'm giving them away, because I truly believe that we are really well taken care of by the universe and we have enough stuff. And that's the philosophy that has fueled us giving away as much stuff as we have given away and still continue to do so. And there is hilarious incident that also happened when we were back in Washington. So hubby would be loading up, huge amounts of stuff in our van back then, a carpool van that he used to use, because not everything would fit in our car. And he would go as frequently as sometimes during the week, he would go multiple times to Goodwill and drop off stuff there when he was donating. And that person literally working at the Goodwill store had asked hubby if he was a government official who was actually picking up all the stuff that people were leaving on the buses or wherever in the county. And he was actually going and dropping them off because that's the amount of stuff that Howie was dropping off. It's hilarious because the carpool van that he was using back then, it looked like an official van. So he was not wrong in asking that. But yeah, it's also sad in a way. And now I also know that a lot of people have reservations about donating stuff to Goodwill because of however they choose to treat the things that have been donated there. But here's the thing, I have to pick my battles. And I can't sit here and find individual people for the bazillion things that we have had to donate over the years. So I genuinely donate with the heart that it will go where it needs to go. And I go through everything we have quarterly, whether it's kids' toys, which, by the way, my kids have the tiniest amount of collection when it comes to toys because I have been very conscious of not having them fall into the same trap of consumerism that I see. that I fell into, and I see the world is pushing the kids into, not just towards themselves. So I've been very conscious, and hence we only buy them toys maybe a maximum of 3 times in a year. One during their birthday, one during Christmas, and one some random occasion. And we also make sure that we're constantly pulling out toys and donating them. And I also do the same for our clothes and other stuff in the house. And I continue to put them in donation bins that hubby takes them and donates them whenever. And now I also know that a lot of people have reservations about donating stuff to Goodwill because of however they choose to treat the things that have been donated there. But here's the thing, I have to pick my battles. And I can't sit here and find individual people for the bazillion things that we have had to donate over the years. If you're donating one or two things, by all means, go find individuals and donate them. But when I'm donating such huge amounts of stuff, I cannot concern myself with is Goodwill actually going to donate all of this or not. I genuinely donate with the heart and truly trust that the rest is going to be taken care of in whatever way it needs to be taken care of. So, yes, long story short, this home, Sahasrara, has truly been a classroom, a crucible, and a container that has taught me, that has taught us even more about how to live with less, how to live in proximity, how to stop hiding in square footage, and how to see my kids, my husband, and myself up close. Because, like I said, it's just four of us in a 3 bedroom home, and my office is in one room. The kids share, and my husband work from home sometimes. So there's really no hiding. And while yes, we have outgrown this home, I also know we will leave when the time is right. So, yes, this home has truly brought us connection, community, school, friendships that I could have never imagined. And of course, sunshine and a lot more that we hadn't even planned for. But now, in hindsight, it looks like it was always meant to be that way. And like I said, this is also an evolving process in more ways than one, for me, for my husband, for our kids. And it's been 3 incredible years for us in this home. In some ways, I honestly feel like we should know our next path, but the reality is that we are not there yet. And I am choosing yet again, as always, to trust the universe to show us what's next. And maybe that's going to be tomorrow, or maybe it's going to be 3 years from now, because I have moved away from being the person who needed everything to happen yesterday to the person who trusts the divine timing now. I mean, if this isn't proof, I don't know what is, because the major life changing decision we made this year, it wouldn't have been remotely possible if not for the seeds that were planted back in 2022. We didn't know that in 2022, but the universe did. And that's the beauty of it. And that's the ultimate divine design, destiny by design. Right? And you don't always see the why up front, but the why always, always, always reveals itself later when the time is right, as long as you're willing to trust it and follow through on it. So I will say this again, like I said, we have outgrown this home in many ways, and we truly are craving a backyard where my kids can go outside and run crazy and wild and burn all of their energy. So hubby and I are not directly subjected to all of their wild energy. But at the same time, I am not rushing this process, because I also truly believe that while we might have physically outgrown this home, but who's to say that we have done so energetically yet? Maybe our next home is not ready for us yet, or maybe we are not ready for that home yet as well. So if you know, you know. And also, to put things in perspective, sometimes the space you are in is still teaching you something that you are yet to learn. And sometimes the upgrade needs you to upgrade first, which perhaps hasn't happened. Who knows? So, yes, this is the real, the raw, and the right now of our life. Well, for the most part, right? Because there's always things that I choose to share, and there's always things that I choose to keep to ourselves. Yeah, and that's exactly why everything that you just heard on this episode is also why I trust the pauses now, because there's something that's happening in the background, even during those sacred pauses that perhaps you and I can't see, and perhaps we don't need to see either. So, yeah, that's how it works. But also, here's the nuance that just because you choose to do the inner work and trust the divine timing, it's not like you're never going to have moments like me, like I have, where you are going to continue to take up that battle with the universe, where you will say, because I do this more often than not, battle and fight with the universe, saying, why the fuck are you taking so long, universe? Can you just not let me move on? But both you and I know the answer to that question. So, yes, even when you feel like you've done enough inner work, even when you feel like you are ready to move or move on, and the move actually hasn't happened, there is a reason for that, right? So, yes, while I still do pick my battles with the universe and fight with the universe, while something is not happening as fast as I want it to, the difference though, because I've always been that impatient person, and I said, I'm not that anymore, but I do go through that phase every now and then. The difference now is that I pause. Now I say, okay, fine. I know where that impatience is coming from. That is the old me. And we are the evolved version of ourselves right now. So shut the fuck up and trust the timing, Kusum. Yeah, I have to keep telling that to myself. I have to keep reminding myself, because the truth is, I have evolved. And now, when that impatience shows up, I don't spiral. I just allow myself to take several deep breaths and remind myself that that's okay. It's okay for you to feel that way. It's okay for you to get impatient. But we're also going to trust the timing and shut the fuck up right now. Because time and time again, the universe has delivered when it is the right time. Okay, so on that note, to re sum up this home, Sahasrara, the thousand petal portal has truly held us through identity shedding, parenting in transitions and chaos, donations that have truly felt like literal exorcisms, because you should get in my head when I have to make those decisions, and you will know why it feels like an exorcism. Recalibrating well, redefining enoughness, and more importantly, redefining success, and also future casting in a way that I could have never dreamed of several years ago. And it's most definitely forced me to confront my stuff, not just physically, because you've been hearing about it this entire episode, but also energetically. So, yes, here's to 3 years of trusting, of screaming, of surrendering, of sacred chaos. And yes, like I said, this is the real, the raw, and the right now. And we don't know what's next, but we are ready for it whenever it arrives. So, if you made it all the way through this really long, 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 long episode of me going from one topic to another and jumping back and forth and here and there and doing all of the things, You are incredible. More importantly, if you are in the waiting room, the in between, the not quite there season yet, this episode truly is for you. And that's exactly why I went into the details of various different aspects of life, because I want to make this as real as possible. Because it's one thing to say, trust the divine, follow your intuition, trust the timing, but it's a whole other thing for you to truly hear real live examples of people who are going through it, people, normal people like you who have little kids running around the house like crazy, who has a loving husband, who has a job, real job that keeps him on his toes, even though that scenario has changed a bit over the last few months. I won't get into the details of that, but I'm telling you, like, when we have done all of these things, it is very much being a part of the real life that you perhaps are living right now. We are not couple who are living the fantasy. While I say fantasy, because you will see several examples of influencers online who are doing incredibly amazing things. But the fact is, their real lives don't reflect the majority of what your real life looks like, because they are living a completely different life, right? Because their lifestyle is very different. Maybe perhaps they're just couples without kids, or maybe they have never been in corporate before and they've been entrepreneurs all their life. So their lifestyle is completely different. But on the other hand, for me, my husband, we have been in corporate, we have had full-time corporate jobs, and I'm an entrepreneur and I have kids, and I literally cook and clean at home. I don't have any external help, and it's just hubby and I doing things at home, taking care of all of the responsibilities just between us, right? So that's exactly why I went into as many details as possible on this episode, so you can hear from real life, real people, real examples. So if you needed to hear everything that was shared on this episode today, please know that you're meant to trust your timing, trust your intuition. Please fully trust it, even when it's slow. And I know how hard it is, and I get it because I go through that phase even now. And please continue to trust it, even when it doesn't make sense. More importantly, when it doesn't make sense, because what doesn't make sense to us is only because we are not able to see the full picture. But the universe, on the other hand, sees the whole picture, right? So if you are waiting in that in between phase, please know that there's also something waiting for you on the other side. And what's waiting for you on the other side? I can guarantee you that way, 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 way better than whatever it is that you're trying to force to it. So, my invitation to you is, can you allow yourself to trust that? Because the truth is, sometimes the best things happen in just 3 weeks and not 3 years. And sometimes the universe downsizes you to deliver the biggest gift of all, clarity and connection, both extremely essential for you to live the most amazing, beautiful, incredible life. So, on that note, happy 3 years to us in this home, Sahasrara. And thank you, Sahasrara, for being our portal, for holding us while we healed, grew, shed, donated, evolved, elevated, became, and we still continue to do all of those, right? The rest of our lives. You have changed us in every way, more ways than what we could have imagined 3 years ago. And I truly trust that you, Sahasrara, will tell us when it's time to go, when it's time to walk through that next form. All right, you all, thank you for hanging out with me on this podcast episode, my very first video podcast episode. Now, let me go see how many times I've goofed up and how much more time I'm going to end up spending editing this. But honestly speaking, I put zero pressure on me. I just allowed myself to show up as me and do my thing the way I do. Except I did dress up, if you call this dressing up, just so I could record a video podcast. If I was doing just an audio podcast today, I would not have done any of this because today is Friday, and Fridays I don't like to do anything, but I chose to do it. So I did that for the video podcast episode. And if you enjoyed this episode, if you enjoyed seeing me in all of my 171 different emotions and expressions on the video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like, save, subscribe, comment, leave a review. I think those are all the things. Like I said, I didn't plan to say those things. So I'm just saying this is me in the moment because I have learned to embrace all of the unscripted realness of life rather than scripting everything out. Okay, so on that note, thank you for being here. Please shoot me a DM on my Instagram at Kismat by Kusum and let me know how you actually liked, enjoyed this video episode versus just the audio episodes. I would love to hear from you. So on that note, I am going to actually see you back here on the podcast episode. Next week, it's going to be a guest episode. So I will see you back here on the podcast real soon. Until then, keep continuing to dig deeper and have those amazing, beautiful conversations with yourself. After all, we are the Inner Golden Hour podcast. Talk to you real soon. Bye bye now. Oh, I actually let these lights be on. I didn't even realize I didn't take it off the entire episode. Okay, cool. I guess cool. These balloons coming from Zoom, I have no idea.
Thank you for joining me on another episode of this podcast. I appreciate your time, your presence, your commitment, and your willingness to embark on this journey of self discovery, transformation, and manifestation. If anything you heard today resonated with you, sparked new insights, or brought about aha moments, I'd love to hear all about them. So please share your thoughts by tagging me on social media at Passion Purpose Passport and follow me there for more inspiring content and connection. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and show your support by liking, reviewing, and sharing this podcast. The more good we share with the world, the more the universe unfolds its magic for us. It's not just good karma, it's the universal law, aka Manifestation 101. On that note, align your mind, body, heart, and soul with your deepest desires for limitless possibilities. Remember, every step you take, every action you choose, ripples through the universe, shaping the reality you wish to experience. Until next time, keep basking in the brilliance of your inner golden hour and keep manifesting miracles.